The universe begins in silence. Not the silence of an empty room, nor the silence between two breaths, but the silence of a canvas too vast to conceive. Imagine an ocean without shorelines, without horizon, without end, and yet not made of water, but a void. And inside this void, something unseen, something that bends the rules of existence itself. This is where our story begins. Not with light, but with shadow. When humanity first lifted its eyes to the stars, it believed the universe was made of what it could see. The points of light scattered across the dome of night, the fiery orbs that illuminated the darkness, the galaxies spiraling like silent whirlpools in the cosmic sea. For millennia, it was enough to think the visible was the whole. But the visible is never the whole. The universe is not what it appears to be. It is a trick of light and a deception of scale. The truth emerged slowly, as though reluctant to be discovered. In the early 20th century, a man named Fritz Zwicky stood at the edge of knowledge. The year was 1933. He was not searching for shadows. He was studying galaxies, vast collections of stars, each swirling around its luminous center. But what Zwicky found was not harmony. The galaxies of the Coma cluster moved too quickly, like children spinning wildly on a carousel. The laws of physics said they should fly apart into the abyss, scattered like leaves in a storm. And yet they did not. Something unseen bound them together, and at first it was dismissed. Perhaps Zwicky's measurements were wrong. Perhaps his instruments had failed him. But the more astronomers looked, the more unsettling the pattern became. There was not enough visible matter, stars, dust, gas, to explain the gravity at work. Something invisible was present, exerting a gravitational pull strong enough to hold entire galaxies in place. Zwicky called it Dunkel Materie, dark matter. The phrase itself was terrifying, not simply because it implied something hidden, but because it implied something vast, something more abundant than everything we could see. It was not simply that the universe contained a secret. The secret was the universe itself. Decades later, Vera Rubin picked up the trail. In the 1970s, using the most advanced telescopes of her time, she measured the speed of stars at different distances from the centers of spiral galaxies. The expectation was simple. Stars closer to the core would orbit faster, just as planets closer to the sun orbit faster. But the data refused to obey expectation. The stars at the edges of galaxies moved with impossible speed, as though pulled by an invisible hand. The galaxies themselves should have been torn apart, flung into the cosmic dark. And yet they held together, bound by a mass unseen. Rubin's discovery was undeniable, and it changed astronomy forever. It was not a small adjustment to our equations. It was not a minor oversight corrected by new data. It was a rupture in our perception of reality. The universe, it turned out, was mostly invisible. The numbers were staggering. Nearly 85% of the matter in the cosmos was dark, unseen, undetectable by light. Everything we knew, every planet, every star, every galaxy, was only the tip of a cosmic iceberg. Beneath it lay a vast, unseen mass. The visible universe was nothing more than the glowing foam riding the surface of an ocean of shadow. But what was this shadow made of? What could exist in such abundance, shaping the very skeleton of the cosmos, yet resist every attempt to be seen? For nearly a century, science has pursued the answer. Deep underground, in caverns shielded from cosmic rays, detectors have been built, waiting for the faintest whispers of collisions between dark matter and ordinary atoms. In the silence of these laboratories, scientists hope to catch a ghost. Above Earth, satellites have traced the afterglow of the Big Bang, the cosmic microwave background, revealing subtle patterns etched by gravity in the earliest moments of time. These patterns, too, whisper of dark matter, woven into the fabric of the universe from its birth. Through telescopes, astronomers have watched the bending of light around invisible masses. Gravitational lensing, as Einstein's theory predicted. Galaxies distorted like reflections in warped glass, shaped not by what could be seen, but by halos of unseen matter. The more they looked, the more undeniable it became. Dark matter was everywhere, present in every corner of the cosmos, silent and untouchable, yet sculpting the galaxies like an unseen hand sculpting clay. And yet, for all the evidence, there is no answer. No particle has been caught. No direct trace has been confirmed. We stand inside a paradox. We know it is there, but we cannot touch it, cannot see it, cannot define it. We live inside a ghost universe. This is where the terror begins, not in the discovery itself, but in the implications. For if the universe is built on foundations we cannot perceive, then our very notion of reality collapses. The story of humanity is a story of light, fire against darkness, discovery through sight. But what if sight is useless? What if light itself, the very thing that reveals the universe to us, is powerless against the majority of existence? It is here, at this threshold, that the most terrifying theories begin to emerge. Some say dark matter is made of WIMPs, weakly interacting massive particles, a shadow population of particles drifting through us at every moment, uncountable and indifferent. If true, then billions of them pass through our bodies every second. Silent, untouchable, invisible. We are haunted by a rain of shadows, an endless storm of ghosts that neither notice us nor allow themselves to be noticed. Others suggest axions, strange, ghost-like particles that could weave themselves into a quantum field stretched across the cosmos. If so, then we are swimming not in space, but in a universal mist of shadow, where every point of existence is saturated by an invisible ocean. But there are darker speculations still. What if dark matter is not particles at all? What if it is something deeper, something stranger, a hidden universe superimposed upon our own? A parallel world of shadow matter, complete with its own forces, its own galaxies, its own stars and planets, existing alongside ours, forever untouchable. In this theory, the terrifying possibility emerges. We are the shadows, not it. Our universe may be only one half of a cosmic coin. The galaxies we see may be mere lanterns drifting in a vast, unseen city of shadow. Every star we know, every law we trust, may be but a fragment of a larger, unreachable truth. In the silence of deep space, one cannot help but wonder, what does it mean to live inside such a universe? A universe where the visible is a lie and the invisible is reality. What does it mean for life, for consciousness, for humanity itself, to know that it is born not from light, but from shadow? Perhaps the most chilling thought is this. Dark matter is not passive. It is not simply a hidden scaffolding holding galaxies together. It may have a destiny, a role in the cosmic future we cannot yet fathom. If it decays, if it transforms, it may unravel the universe itself. The stars may fall, the galaxies dissolve, and the cosmos return to silence, not because of what we can see, but because of what we cannot. The story of dark matter is not merely scientific. It is existential. It is the realization that we do not live in the universe we thought we did, that our senses are blind, our science incomplete, our knowledge only a shadow of truth. It is the story of a mystery vast enough to swallow certainty and terrifying enough to remind us of our fragility. This is the beginning of the journey into the most terrifying theory about dark matter. A journey that will take us through discovery, through paradox, through speculation, and finally into the abyss of philosophical reflection, where science and meaning collide, and the universe reveals itself not as a stage for human understanding, but as a shadowed cathedral of unanswerable questions. And here, in the silence, the question lingers. Are we the ones who see the universe, or are we merely the shadows cast by something we will never see? He stands in the dome of a night that does not end, a mind tracing constellations that refuse to answer. In the glass of a telescope, galaxies turn like the slow machinery of a clock too enormous to fit inside thought. Their arms are rivers of starlight, their cores are furnaces, their halos are absence. Where light stops, gravity continues, and it doesn't ask permission. Fritz Zwicky finds the first crack in the mirror. It is 1933 and the Coma cluster ought to behave. The galaxies should orbit their common mass as planets do their star, slowed by distance, disciplined by Newton's imperatives. Instead, they rush as if chased by a wind that cannot exist, as if held in the clutch of a mass that refuses to show its face. He counts the velocities, toes the ledgers of the heavens, and arrives at a surplus that is not a surplus, but a negation, missing mass, enough to sink certainty. He calls it dark matter. The name is less a description than a confession. He does not know what it is. He knows only that it is not light. The phrase crosses the ocean of science like a shadow thrown by a distant storm. Some dismiss him, others wait. The sky waits least of all. The decades turn. In quiet rooms, spectrographs spool rainbows into mathematics. In Keck domes, in Palomar's white temple, in the ink-black thin-aired nights of mountain deserts, Vera Rubin listens to galaxies the way a physician listens to a heart. She charts the rotation curves, expecting the decline that classical gravity promises. But starlight at the edge is not slow. It is stubborn. The curve plateaus where it should fall. Far from the hearth of a galaxy, stars fly as swiftly as those within. Something vast stands outside vision, pulling with a steadiness that unsettles her instruments and comforts no one. There is an architecture beyond the chandelier. The spiral's visible arms are not the body, only an illuminated trace of a structure whose true weight is hidden. A city of mass without windows, a cathedral of gravity whose walls are made of night. The shock strikes not in a single increment, but as a series of quiet insurrections, a lensing arc smearing a background galaxy into a luminous teardrop. A cluster collision, the bullet cluster, laying bare the separation of gas and gravity like bones pulled from flesh. The cosmic microwave background, riddled with tiny temperature differences, seeds that only a dark scaffolding could fatten into the web we see. Each discovery is a sentence in a language that refuses to translate. The grammar is gravity, the subject is an absence, the verb is inevitable. What is terrifying is not that nature keeps secrets, it is that she has built the house with them. 85% of what binds the cosmos together refuses to interact with light, with color, with sight. The senses that championed our species in forests and savannas are suddenly trivial in a universe that will not speak in photons. Even our instruments, those prosthetic eyes of metal and cooled silence, can only read the imprints dark matter leaves on what it permits to shine. Einstein's equations do not break. They bow, perhaps, in the presence of this invisible colossus, but they do not shatter. Space-time curves, light follows the curvature, yet the curve itself is drafted by a mass that refuses to glow. Newton's gravity still whispers its inverse square lullaby, but something else hums a deeper bass line, inaudible until the instruments, old and patient, tune to it. Astronomy changes its posture. No longer content to be a cartographer of light, it becomes an anatomist of shadows. Gravitational lensing transforms the sky into a forensic lab. Every arc a signature, every sheared ellipse a testimony. Surveys stitch together maps of dark matter, halos with the light of distant galaxies as a backlight. The web emerges, the cosmic web, a lattice of filaments thicker than imagination, thinner than hope, linking clusters together with bridges that never learned how to shine. In basements of the earth, shielded from cosmic noise by kilometers of rock, a different kind of vigil begins. Tanks of ultra-pure xenon are cooled until motion itself seems embarrassed to continue. Photomultipliers wait like hunters in an eternal dusk. The goal is humble to the point of absurdity. A single collision, a whisper of energy where none should be, a handshake between a particle that will not speak and an atom that would never think to ask the question. The silence is almost total. Almost. Detectors claim anomalies, then retract them as if the darkness were teasing, offering a glove and withdrawing it at the door. Year after year, collaborations rewrite their thresholds, refine their calibrations, learn to distinguish the wink of a background neutron from the glance of a would-be wimp. The discipline is its own faith. If nature can collide dark matter with ordinary matter, it will. If it does not, perhaps we have misunderstood the invitation. Above, satellites read the afterglow of the first light. COBE, then WMAP, then Planck, the names a litany of patience, each with better resolution, each revealing a sky whose mottled cold and warm patches are not noise, but the first truth-tellers of structure. The numbers insist dark matter must have been present from almost the beginning, allowing gravity to gather, to condense, to deepen wells that light would later fill with stars. The luminous universe is a latecomer, an artist painting onto scaffolding already erected in black. And still the mind resists. Not the equations. The equations proceed, cool and exact, but the animal in the mind that prefers the seen to the inferred. It resists because the cost of acceptance is to admit a demotion far more severe than Copernicus imposed. It is one thing to say, we are not at the center. It is another to say that the center itself is made of something we can neither touch nor detect, except by its effect on what little we are allowed to notice. There are rumors of variance. Some galaxies appear to have less dark matter than their siblings, their stars moving as if gravity were a local custom and not a federal law. Others seem swollen with the stuff, their light a minor detail in a drama of mass, played mostly off stage. The distribution refuses diplomacy. It is not uniform, not clean. It is stubbornly particular, clumped and haloed, ragged at the edges like a torn map. Such irregularities do not undermine the thesis. They complicate it, enriching a mystery that would be less terrifying if smooth. The terror has a second aspect. If dark matter is not merely a property but a population, if it is made of particles that have their own conversation, then we are living within a crowd we cannot join. A city of citizens moving through us, ignoring us, influencing every motion we make while remaining forever unacknowledged by our senses. There is a social horror to this too, the nightmare of being surrounded by presences that will not acknowledge you. Cosmology is haunted not by ghosts, but by neighbors, separated by a wall that cannot be broken because it is not there. Consider the ships we have sent into the night. Voyager, New Horizons, the probes with their weak hearts of plutonium pushing against the void, bearing plaques and records, are small biographies in gold. They pass through interstellar space like thoughts. Dark matter passes through them the way wind passes through the idea of a net. The probes do not notice. They are made of atoms. Dark matter is not interested in atoms. It is interested in curvature. It speaks gravity, that ancient tongue, and all the rest is silence. To define is to control, and so we name candidates like fishermen naming currents. WIMPs, weakly interacting massive particles, the acronym cradling our hope that the garden of high-energy physics contains such fruit. Supersymmetry promises them as if from a second Eden, each known particle paired with a heavier sibling, a shadow, the S of symmetry, stretching like a rumor into energies we cannot yet command. The Large Hadron Collider roars. Detectors bloom like steel flowers. Data stacks into mountains that theory must climb. We find a Higgs and celebrate. The WIMPs do not RSVP. Axions enter from the side door, quieter than wimps, more pervasive if present, whispering as a field draped over the cosmos, so light that a single particle would border on the concept of nothing. They would solve another problem, the strong CP puzzle of quantum chromodynamics, and science has always admired a solution that pays two debts with one coin. Haloscopes turn their ears to radio frequencies, hunting axions like ornithologists listening for a bird no one has seen. The bird either sings very softly or not at all. Sterile neutrinos offer yet another compromise. A particle that is like the ghost of a ghost, an extension of an already shy family. But constraints tighten, limits narrow, and the parameter space feels like a room where the walls inch inward each year. Still, the possibility wanders the corridors. We are not in a position to evict it. Beyond particles, the sky itself shapes hypotheses that unsettle sleep. Perhaps dark matter is a clan, not a single particle. Perhaps it has its own forces, its own light, that do not couple to our photons, its own chemistry, its own galaxies of shadow-forming structures parallel to ours, superimposed yet unmixed, like two sheets of music played simultaneously to ears that can hear only one. Perhaps in that world there are suns that do not burn, planets that do not reflect, life that does not metabolize as we do, a form of order that vibrates, entirely in a register to which we are stone deaf. There is a deeper dread that belongs not to science fiction, but to the austerity of theory. If dark matter has a phase transition in its past or future, if its field can tip from one vacuum to another, then the foundation of structure is not merely invisible, but potentially unstable. Imagine a cosmos whose scaffolding can relax into a lower energy state, dragging curvature with it, jostling the furniture of galaxies. The fear is not cinematic annihilation, but something colder, a shift in the rules that define what can be. Within this hierarchy of unease, an old question sharpens. Are we mistaking the symptom for the cause? Could gravity behave differently at scales where only galaxies speak? Modified Newtonian dynamics and its children propose a tweak to law, rather than the invention of a new population of matter. But the bullet cluster frowns. Lensing maps shake their heads. The microwave background tilts its pattern of peaks and troughs, indicating a universe that grew up with dark matter's firm hand. The modifications do not vanish. They retreat, making room for what the data demands. It is not gravity that is unfaithful. It is our census of matter that is incomplete. Human time is an offense to cosmic patience. We demand a particle in a decade, a theory in a generation, an answer within a career. The universe is amused. It took 500,000 years just to cool from white to red, millions more to become transparent to its own light, billions to throw up the first cities of stars. Our detectors, heroic as they are, have been awake for minutes by that clock. The thought ought to humble. Instead, it instructs. What we call silence may simply be interval. Meanwhile, the evidence accumulates, and in that accumulation is another terror, the terror of being herded toward a truth that we still cannot name. If every line of inquiry points to a mountain in fog, at what point do we accept the mountain's existence? At what point does fear become reverence? The universe makes a demand. Accept the scaffold you cannot see as the premise of every spiral, every cluster, every filament. Accept that you do not merely live under dark matter, you live within it. It is the medium of your galaxy, the way water is the medium of a fish. The philosophical implications are not garnish. They are the main course. If reality at its largest scales is structured by an entity that denies participation in our electromagnetic conversation, then to observe is revealed as a parochial act. To know is no longer to see, it is to infer. The method we built from fire and sight must be enlarged to embrace a darkness that is not evil, not withholding, but indifferent. Hawking gazed into black holes and found thermodynamics written on their horizons. Entropy has a way of policing ambition. Einstein stitched geometry to gravity, insisting that matter tells space-time how to curve and space-time tells matter how to move. Dark matter tells both how to be something else. It tells geometry to deepen in places where light refuses to congregate. It tells matter we can see to arrange itself along lines dictated by a chorus of particles we cannot. It is the director in a theater of actors who never hear his voice but obey his blocking perfectly. And yet terror is not the only voice. There is also awe. To be alive at a moment when the universe reveals the outline of its hidden bones is to live at the edge of a map as it expands. Fear and awe are siblings. The heart does not always know which it is feeling until after the fact. The mystery thus stands, not a riddle to be solved with a punchline, but a cathedral whose nave draws you inward by virtue of its very darkness. The columns are halos, the vaults are filaments. The stained glass is lensing arcs brightened by the pain of distant galaxies stretched into curves. The organ is the microwave background playing its chord of primordial fluctuations, its overtone series setting the key in which structure must compose itself. And in that place, one may hear a doctrine that does not require belief to be true. The majority of the universe is neither hostile nor kind. It is merely present in a way we are ill-equipped to sense. What remains is work. The long, patient labor of tuning instruments, of cooling detectors, of measuring shears and stacking maps, of arguing about priors, of ruling out parameter spaces, of enduring the small humiliations of error and the greater humiliation of partial success. It is a human labor scaled to a non-human thing. It will not end quickly. That is the final, perhaps most elegant terror, that the truth we seek may not be capturable by our chosen methods in our allotted time. The questions outlive us. The answers do too. Yet the asking leaves marks. The night takes them and, with a gravity we now know how to respect, holds them. In time, the story we tell about dark matter will change from incredulity to intimacy. We will describe its distribution the way we now describe weather, fronts of density, eddies of halo mergers, long high-pressure ridges of filamentary mass across which galaxies flow. We will predict the quiet thunderstorms of substructure the way we predict monsoons. We will come to understand the conditions under which stars ignite in the lee of a dense clump, the way sailors learn the moods of currents. Our metaphors will follow our models. Our fear will become a form of literacy. Until then, we stand in the doorway of a house whose interior does not reflect the light we carry. We put our hands out and feel nothing, and yet the floor holds. We step further in, listening for the shape of rooms by the echo of our own footsteps. Somewhere in the dark, a staircase ascends. We do not know what is above, only that the architecture continues. We climb because that is what we have always done. We respond to mystery with ascent. The galaxies do not wait for our comprehension. They orbit in, obedience to a command we did not give, bound by a mass we did not invite. The command is not cruel. It is simply there, as inevitable as the way a river finds the sea. We have named the river. One day we will have walked far enough along its banks to see its source. For now, we hear it at night, murmur in the ears of telescopes, a hush thicker than silence, the sound of a universe held together by what it declines to show. They told themselves the sky was complete, that every star they could see was the whole inventory, the full register of existence. Yet when the first maps of gravitational lensing were drawn, the illusion began to fracture. Light bent where there was nothing to bend it. Background galaxies stretched into arcs, contorted into mirrored twins, smeared across space by a lens whose glass was invisible. Astronomers traced the distortions, and in the silence of those distortions lay the proof. The universe is draped in halos of matter we cannot touch. colossal envelopes of gravity that cradle galaxies like seeds suspended in an unseen web. It was not an optional correction. The data did not politely suggest, it commanded. Without dark matter, the universe does not grow the way it has. Structures would not form in time. Galaxies would not coalesce. Stars would be rarer than hope. It was dark matter that sculpted the first scaffolds. Gravity wells that gathered hydrogen, cradled it, and let it ignite into fire. Every sunrise on Earth, every atom of our bodies forged in the heart of a star, every spiral of the Milky Way, each is a child of something we cannot perceive. And still, there is no direct detection. Particle colliders have thundered, tearing protons into quarks and gluons, searching for echoes of a hidden partner. Cavernous detectors buried in rock have waited through decades of stillness, listening for the faintest tap of a passing shadow. Satellites have scanned the glow of annihilation that should occur if dark matter collides with itself. But silence reigns. The absence grows heavier each year. It is a silence not of nothingness, but of refusal. The mystery deepens not only in its scale, but in its contradictions. There are galaxies whose stars seem to move as if no dark matter exists within them, their mass accounted for by the visible alone. Others appear bloated with the unseen, their light little more than decoration on a framework of shadow. If dark matter were simple, if it were uniform, the cosmos would obey. Instead, it plays by rules we have not written, mocking the neatness of our models. The cosmic web expands this unease. Filaments of dark matter stretch for hundreds of millions of light years, braiding the universe into a skeleton no human eye can see. Galaxies cling to these threads like dewdrops on strands of silk. Vast voids lie between, regions where the invisible fabric thins and the luminous retreats. To map this structure is to glimpse a body too immense to recognize, a body whose organs are galaxies whose bloodstream is time. The question presses in, if the skeleton of the universe is made of shadow, what then is light but an ornament? Einstein's relativity provides the grammar of this silence. Space-time curves where mass resides. Dark matter is mass incarnate, without light, without dialogue. It bends the stage on which all of physics is performed, yet refuses to take a bow. The actors of ordinary matter move to its choreography, ignorant of the director's presence. We do not see it, yet it arranges us. The terror of the deepening mystery is that dark matter may not be one thing. It may be a family, a chorus of hidden particles, some heavy and rare, others light and abundant. It may not merely drift, it may speak to itself in forces we cannot sense, building shadow galaxies, shadow stars, shadow planets. If so, then the luminous universe is not the main act, but a subplot, an afterthought. We may be the shadows, and dark matter the true matter, the host in whose house we are guests. And there is the more catastrophic fear. If dark matter is unstable, if across billions of years its particles decay, then the architecture of the cosmos is temporary. The halos that hold galaxies could unravel. The scaffolding could collapse. The stars would still burn for a time, but the framework that keeps them bound would dissolve. The night sky would thin, galaxies drifting apart, the cosmic web dismembered by an invisible erosion. It would not be a bang. It would be a fade, a slow undoing of gravity's cathedral, until silence returned. This possibility shudders through the corridors of science. Not because it is imminent, dark matter, if it decays, does so on scales longer than the age of the universe, but because it forces a reckoning. The cosmos is not built to last forever. Its skeleton may have a half-life, and if the skeleton can collapse, then the luminous skin, the stars, the galaxies, the fragile worlds of life, is only a brief experiment. In this abyss of ignorance, theories proliferate like constellations. Supersymmetry promises WIMPs. String theory suggests hidden sectors. Quantum fields hint at axions. Sterile neutrinos linger on the margins. Each theory is a candle, its light fragile against the immensity of shadow. Yet each flame is fed by a deeper truth. We know we are surrounded. The evidence is relentless, the gravity undeniable. It is not belief. It is not conjecture. It is weight, curvature, the bending of light, the spin of stars. The escalation of mystery is not merely scientific. It is existential. For if reality is built upon an invisible architecture, then what we call knowledge is scaffolding on scaffolding, perception nested within ignorance. The world we see is not the world that is. We are like children describing the ocean by the color of its foam, blind to the depths below. Dark matter does not answer. It does not betray itself. It holds the galaxies in its invisible grip and waits. For what, we do not know. Perhaps for nothing, perhaps forever. Perhaps we are not meant to know. And yet in that silence, a more chilling thought stirs. The universe is not obligated to be knowable. It is not obligated to be kind. It is not even obligated to be visible. Dark matter is the proof. We live in a cosmos where the unseen outweighs the seen, where the rules are written in an alphabet we do not recognize, where the most important presence is absence. This is the deepening of the terror. That reality itself does not care to be revealed, that we may be condemned to orbit forever in the embrace of an invisible skeleton, blind, voiceless, and small. The theories arrive like whispers in the dark, each one an attempt to name the silence. They are not equal. Some glow with the elegance of mathematics, others flicker with desperation. Yet all of them are born from the same refusal, the refusal of the universe to let us see what holds it together. The first and longest-lived contender is the WIMP, the weakly interacting massive particle. It is a creation of supersymmetry, a grand extension of the standard model of physics, where every particle we know has a hidden twin. The WIMP is heavy enough to shape galaxies, aloof enough to slip through matter without a trace. In theory, it explains the cosmic riddle with grace. A particle formed in the furnace of the Big Bang, lingering through the eons, drifting silently through our bodies, through our planet, through the stars. If WIMPs exist, then every second billions pass through you, indifferent, like rain through a ghost. For decades, WIMPs were the favored children of cosmology. Detectors waited underground, hoping for a rare collision, a spark in xenon, a tremor in germanium. But the silence persisted. The parameter space, the map of possible masses and interaction strengths, shrank with every failed attempt. The dream of supersymmetry dimmed, though it is not extinguished. Somewhere, perhaps, the WIMP waits. Or perhaps it never was. Then came the axion, stranger still. Born not of symmetry, but of a puzzle in quantum chromodynamics, axions were not invented for cosmology, yet they slipped into the role of dark matter with unsettling perfection. Light but legion, axions would not act as particles so much as a field, a cosmic mist permeating all of space. If true, the universe itself is soaked in their presence, a fog of shadows in which galaxies are suspended. Experiments now listen for axions as one listens for a faint note in a symphony, tuning radio cavities to frequencies where silence might fracture into a whisper. The sterile neutrino is another ghost. Ordinary neutrinos, almost massless, already haunt the universe in unimaginable numbers, relics of the Big Bang itself. The sterile neutrino would be their cousin, heavier, unwilling to interact except through gravity. It would be invisible to detectors, indifferent even to the weak force. It would be the perfect fugitive, hiding in the gaps of our equations, waiting to be inferred rather than seen. But there are theories more terrifying still. The suggestion that dark matter is not particles at all, but black holes, primordial black holes, formed in the first moments of the cosmos. If true, the The universe is littered with them, invisible until they devour or distort. Their gravity would be the glue, their darkness the essence. We would live not in a universe of particles, but in a universe of tiny, unseen abysses, each one a fragment of creation's violence, each one older than the stars, and deeper still, the possibility that dark matter is an entire hidden sector of physics, a shadow universe with its own laws, its own forces, its own galaxies. In this speculation, dark matter is not passive scaffolding but active reality, a parallel cosmos overlapping ours. Its stars do not shine, its atoms do not reflect, its light is invisible, but it is structured, ordered, alive in a way we cannot touch. If true, then our universe is the ghost, and theirs the real. We are not alone, yet we will never meet the other. Einstein hovers here, his general relativity both a guide and a barrier. For his equations do not forbid such possibilities. Space-time curves as mass demands. But mass itself, what it is made of, is left undefined. Hawking, too, whispers through the dark, his work on black holes reminding us that what we cannot see is often more fundamental than what we can. Speculations spiral outward, some wild, some restrained, each confronting the same abyss. Dark matter could be a false vacuum, a metastable state of reality itself, waiting to collapse into something lower, dragging the universe into a different existence. It could be a new field that pervades all of space, invisible yet sovereign. It could be the key that ties quantum mechanics and relativity together, the missing element that makes physics whole. But the most terrifying theory is the one that shifts perspective. What if dark matter is not alien to us? What if it is we who are alien to it? Perhaps our luminous world is the anomaly, the minority, a thin sheen of light clinging to the true mass of reality. Perhaps consciousness, life, history, all of it is a side effect, a luminous mirage flickering on the surface of a dark ocean. In that framing, dark matter is not the intruder. We are. The mind resists such conclusions, for they make us small, yet the evidence is relentless. Every rotation curve, every lensing map, every whisper of the cosmic microwave background sings the same refrain. What you see is not what is. And so science pushes forward, theories multiplying, each one a torch held high in a cathedral whose ceiling remains unseen. The question that lingers is not merely what dark matter is, but what it means that it exists at all. For if the true architecture of reality is invisible, then perhaps truth itself is indifferent to perception. Perhaps knowledge will always be partial, the shadows always deeper than the light. And perhaps that is the most terrifying theory of all, that dark matter is not only the skeleton of the universe, but a mirror held up to us, reminding us that we too are creatures of blindness, glimpsing only fragments, forever surrounded by a reality we cannot touch. Beneath mountains, in chambers carved from stone, machines wait in darkness deeper than night. They are not built to see, but to listen for a single collision between what we are and what surrounds us. Xenon lies in liquid silence, colder than ice, watched by photomultipliers like mechanical eyes that never blink. They wait for the faintest flicker, the smallest tremor, a sign that a WIMP has brushed against an atom, disturbing the stillness with the weight of its existence. Years pass. The tanks remain quiet. The silence becomes louder than noise. Each failure narrows the search, closing windows of possibility, trimming the range of what dark matter could be. But the search does not stop. For in that silence lies inevitability. Either we are wrong, or the universe is stranger than we can bear. Above the Earth, telescopes sweep the sky. The Fermi Gamma Ray Space Telescope searches for annihilation signals, for the flare of particles destroying one another in a blaze invisible to human eyes. Euclid, the European mission, maps the subtle shearing of galaxies caused by lensing, hoping to chart the dark scaffolding with precision finer than ever before. Soon the Vera Rubin Observatory will begin its survey, photographing the sky in torrents night after night, gathering a map so vast that it will reveal the fingerprints of dark matter in the very distribution of light. The Large Hadron Collider, beneath the soil of Switzerland and France, smashes protons with the violence of creation itself, hunting for particles that slip from the wreckage unseen. Its detectors are vast, layered like the organs of some mechanical beast designed to notice what we cannot. But dark matter does not announce itself. If it is there, it hides in the margins, in missing energy, in absences where presence should be. Science does not retreat. It adapts. If the particles are not massive, perhaps they are light. If they are not rare, perhaps they are common. If they do not collide, perhaps they stream. Each null result becomes a new guide, reshaping the questions, tightening the models. The instruments grow more delicate, more ambitious, more relentless. Humanity, fragile and small, wages war not against darkness, but against ignorance. And yet there is humility in this pursuit. The detectors are human artifacts, imperfect, finite, while the universe is not obliged to reveal itself on our timescales. It may be that dark matter cannot be caught in a tank or glimpsed in a collider. It may be that its presence can only ever be inferred, never touched. If so, then science must confront the possibility that its most faithful method, the experiment, will always fall short. Still, the chase continues, because not to chase is to abandon the very principle of curiosity. Each experiment is an act of defiance, a refusal to let the invisible dictate the terms of knowledge. And though the silence persists, the silence is not empty. It is structured, patterned, shaped by the cosmos itself. The galaxies spin, the light bends, the web stretches. These are the footprints of the unseen. In the end, the scientific pursuit of dark matter is not only a search for particles, it is a confrontation with the limits of method, with the fragility of knowledge, with the patience required to wrestle truth from silence. It is a human endeavor scaled against something inhuman. It is persistence in the face of indifference, a candle carried into a cathedral whose roof may never be revealed. And as the instruments grow, as new missions rise, as detectors listen in deeper silences, the question does not fade. It sharpens. What is the universe made of? What are we made of? And if the answer is hidden, what does that say of us? That we are hunters of shadows, or children staring into a night that will never end. The deeper the search grows, the more it transforms into a mirror. For every failed detection, for every silence where a signal should have been, a truth echoes louder. Perhaps dark matter does not wish to be found by the tools we have built. Perhaps we are listening in the wrong language. The detectors in caverns, the colliders roaring beneath Europe, the telescopes tracing cosmic light, they are all instruments of the known. They are born from our mastery of the visible. Photons, electrons, protons, the familiar chorus of the Standard Model. But dark matter, if it exists in a form beyond particles we can touch, may sing in a frequency our physics cannot hear. It may belong to a deeper layer of reality, one step beneath the fabric we call natural law. Some physicists suggest dark matter has its own forces, its own equivalents of electromagnetism and nuclear strength, a shadow physics unfolding parallel to ours. If so, then our universe is only half a story, one set of rules playing out beside another. We orbit within their presence, yet the curtain between is impenetrable. The galaxies we see may only be faint lanterns, strung like beads along the scaffolding of a shadow cosmos. Others whisper of the possibility that gravity itself deceives us. Perhaps there is no dark matter at all, but rather a flaw in our assumption that Newton's and Einstein's laws stretch unbroken across the void. Modified dynamics, emergent gravity, alternatives that replace matter with new mathematics. They tempt with simplicity. yet the evidence resists. The bullet cluster, the cosmic microwave background, the large-scale web all conspire to say, no, something unseen is truly there, and so science persists, its gaze divided between instruments and equations, between the laboratory and the stars. Every mission is a gamble with silence. The Nancy Grace Roman telescope prepares to scan the heavens, its wide-field eyes tuned to weak lensing, searching for distortions so faint they border on illusion. Gravitational wave observatories, sensitive to tremors in space-time itself, may one day catch the signal of primordial black holes, if they are the culprits behind the unseen mass. Each project extends the reach of our questions, building bridges into the dark. But beyond the laboratories and the observatories lies something older, something quieter, the human confrontation with ignorance. We have always sought to illuminate the dark, to turn silence into story, yet with dark matter the silence is not passive. It is structural. It defines the stage. The galaxies exist because of it. We exist because of it. Without dark matter, there would be no stars, no planets, no life, and yet it remains untouchable, a benefactor that refuses to reveal its face. This paradox humbles and terrifies. We are built of light, atoms forged in stars, molecules woven by chemistry. Our instruments are extensions of that same light. But the cosmos is not built of light, it is built of shadow. The architecture of existence belongs to the unseen. And the question grows sharper. What does it mean to be creatures of the minority, born from the exception, living in a universe where the true majority is invisible? Science responds as it always has, with persistence, with patience, with the refusal to accept the boundary between ignorance and knowledge as fixed. Perhaps the next decade will bring the whisper of an axion, the hint of a sterile neutrino, the echo of a primordial black hole. Perhaps not. Perhaps the answer lies centuries ahead, waiting for instruments not yet imagined. But even now, with no particle in hand, no direct detection, the pursuit itself is a revelation. It reminds us that reality is not obliged to conform to what we can see, that the cosmos is larger, deeper, stranger than our senses allow, that what is invisible may be more fundamental than what is bright. In that truth lies the greatest discovery of all, not the particle, not the signal, but the recognition that knowledge itself is an asymptote, a curve forever approaching truth but never touching it. And yet, in the chase, we come closer. Each silence is not absence but invitation. Each failure is not defeat, but direction. Dark matter waits, and so we listen. The terror is not in what has been found, but in what remains unanswered. For every experiment, every observation, every elegant equation, the mystery only deepens, like a well that grows wider the further we descend. Dark matter is no longer a simple placeholder in our equations. It is a presence, heavy with implication, one that stretches its influence across every galaxy, every filament of the cosmic web, every corner of reality. The escalation begins with the scale of its reach. Entire galaxies spin in obedience to it, their stars circling faster than visible mass allows, yet held in place by an unseen hand. The vast web of structure that defines the universe is not strung together by light, but by this hidden mass. From the smallest dwarf galaxy to the largest cluster, dark matter dictates the choreography. And yet, though it shapes the stage, it refuses to step into the spotlight. The paradox cuts deeper when the exceptions appear. Astronomers discover galaxies that seem almost devoid of dark matter, their stars behaving as Newton and Einstein would predict with visible mass alone. Elsewhere, galaxies appear swollen with it, their faint light suspended in halos far too massive for their size. The inconsistency unsettles. If dark matter is universal, why does it hide in some places and dominate in others? The answer does not come, only the silence of stars orbiting at impossible speeds. Then there is the question of its nature. If dark matter is made of particles, are they eternal, or do they decay? If decay is possible, the implications are catastrophic. The skeleton of the cosmos could be temporary. The very web that holds galaxies together might one day unravel, the framework dissolving into nothingness. Gravity itself would weaken in its grasp, stars and planets drifting apart into the abyss. The end of the universe would not be fire, not collapse, but erosion, an invisible unbinding of all things. And what if it is worse? What if dark matter is not inert at all, but dynamic, with interactions and forces we cannot sense? Then it is not merely a silent partner, but an active one, shaping a parallel realm alongside our own. A shadow universe, invisible yet real, unfolding its own history, its own galaxies, perhaps even its own forms of life. We may be the anomaly, the faint echo of existence, while the true universe thrives in darkness, indifferent to whether we ever recognize it. The terror grows sharper when one considers the possibility of connection. If dark matter interacts with itself through hidden forces, it could form its own chemistry, its own stars and planets, its own mirror of our luminous cosmos. And if so, then the luminous universe we inhabit is a ghost, a minority world, a thin film on the surface of a deeper ocean. The question is not whether we can see them, but whether they can see us. Cosmology becomes existential. The light-filled world we know, the world of galaxies and nebulae, may be an afterthought, a side effect of physics built on a darker foundation. We have always thought of darkness as absence. But what if absence is the true presence, and light is the fleeting anomaly? It is here that the terror reaches its peak. For the more we learn, the more we realize how little we are. We are not the center, not the purpose, not even the majority. We are a spark in a vast cathedral of shadow, briefly alive, soon to fade. And the cathedral will remain, immense and silent, its dark pillars holding up a sky that never needed us. The escalation sharpens when the cosmic web is revealed in full. Maps of galaxies across billions of light-years show filaments stretching like veins across the body of the universe. But the galaxies are only lanterns, tracing the scaffolding of something far vaster. Between them lie voids so immense that entire clusters could drift inside their emptiness. The filaments themselves are not light, but the invisible embrace of dark matter, holding the cosmos together in a structure that is both magnificent and terrifying. Every simulation confirms the same picture. Without dark matter, the universe we see could not exist. Ordinary matter alone cannot form such structures in time. The galaxies would remain scattered, the clusters never born, the night sky a thin sprinkling of stars instead of a vast cathedral. Dark matter is not a detail, it is the foundation. Without it, there is no us. The horror lies in this dependence. Our existence is tethered to something we do not understand, something that does not acknowledge us, something that may vanish or change without warning. Consider the bullet cluster, two galaxy clusters colliding with catastrophic force. Their visible gas smashes together, glowing in X-rays, slowed by resistance. Yet the gravity, measured by lensing, passes straight through as though ignoring the collision. The dark matter sails on, untouched, unbothered, its presence betrayed only by the warping of light. Here is proof, written across billions of light years. Whatever dark matter is, it does not play by the rules of ordinary matter. It is not slowed, not scattered, not burned. It is indifferent, and indifference is terrifying. For it reminds us that the universe is not built for us, not responsive to us, not even aware of us. We are passengers clinging to luminous fragments while the true mass of reality drifts through and around us, beyond our reach. Some imagine dark matter not as passive, but as active, capable of self-interaction through forces hidden from our senses. If this is true, then the invisible is not silent but alive, building its own galaxies, its own stars, its own vast mirror universe. Ours may be the shadow, theirs the real. The idea is no longer science fiction, but a scientific speculation, unsettling in its plausibility. The escalation deepens when we confront time. If dark matter has endured since the birth of the cosmos, might it also have a fate? If its particles can decay, then one day the framework will collapse and the galaxies will fly apart. If it can change phase, like water turning to ice, then reality itself may transform beneath us. We would not see it coming. The stars would burn on, unaware, until suddenly their orbits unbound, their spirals shredded, their light dispersed into a void with no architecture left to hold it. We live with the illusion of permanence. The sun rises, the Milky Way arches overhead, the constellations return each season. But permanence is a lie. Everything is temporary, even the skeleton of the universe. Dark matter holds us now, but it may not hold us forever. And in that realization lies the terror. We are children of a framework that may dissolve without warning, leaving us to drift in silence deeper than the void itself. The mystery becomes unbearable when speculation pushes past physics into the realm of existence itself. For if dark matter is not merely a particle, not merely a hidden mass, but a shadow world, then what does that mean for us? Imagine galaxies of dark matter, vast and silent, their stars invisible, their light unmade. Imagine planets circling in that shadow cosmos, planets of substance we cannot touch, drifting in orbits we cannot see. If dark matter has its own forces, its own chemistry, then it may carry the potential for its own complexity, its own evolution, perhaps even its own form of life. If so, then we do not inhabit the primary universe. We are the fringe, the anomaly, the faint glow at the edge of a deeper, greater reality. The thought terrifies because it inverts everything. We think of ourselves as real and the unseen as absence. But what if absence is the substance and we are the ghosts? What if consciousness, biology, civilization, all of it, is no more than a fleeting epiphenomenon, a spark on the surface of a darkness that endures? To live in such a universe is to live with the possibility that we are not the children of creation, but the accident of it. And there is the more catastrophic possibility still, that dark matter is not only structural, but unstable. If its fields shift, if its particles decay, then the universe is not only temporary, it is precarious. The cosmic web may unravel, the scaffolding that holds galaxies may collapse, and the structures we mistake for permanent may scatter into nothing. The end would not be fire, not even darkness, but silence. A silence where galaxies no longer bind, where light drifts without form, where the cosmos forgets itself. Einstein gave us a universe where space-time curves, where mass dictates geometry. But he never told us what mass truly is. Hawking gave us black holes that radiate, reminding us that nothing is eternal. Between them lies the truth we now face, that the majority of the universe is made of something we cannot touch, and that this something may have a destiny independent of us. We are not its concern. To look into the night sky with this knowledge is to see differently. The constellations are not figures in myth, but stains of light on a canvas dominated by shadow. The spirals of galaxies are not ornaments, but traces of an unseen hand. The silence between stars is not empty, but full of presence, full of gravity, full of matter that refuses to show itself. And so the terror deepens, not in science alone, but in philosophy. For if the skeleton of reality is invisible, then truth itself is indifferent to perception. We were made by what we cannot see, held by what we cannot touch, and one day we may be undone by what will not speak. Theories multiply like stars in a winter sky, each one an attempt to explain what the dark holds. None of them offer comfort. Each, in its own way, suggests that the universe is more alien than we dared to believe. Supersymmetry whispers of wimps, weakly interacting massive particles. Heavy enough to sculpt galaxies, invisible enough to escape every photon, they were once the favored heirs of physics. If true, then each second, billions of them flow through our bodies, indifferent, like rain through stone. But the detectors that were built to catch them have listened for decades and found only silence. Each null result is another door closed, another shadow deeper. Axions arrive from a different lineage. Not born to explain the cosmos, but to fix a puzzle in quantum chromodynamics, they nonetheless slipped perfectly into the role of dark matter. If they exist, they are lighter than thought, yet spread across the universe in such numbers that they form a mist of being, a cosmic fog in which galaxies float. Instruments on Earth now listen for their hum, as though tuning a radio dial across the void, waiting for the faintest chord to break the silence. And then there are the sterile neutrinos, cousins to the most elusive particles we already know. Ordinary neutrinos pass through Earth as though it were transparent. Sterile ones would go further still, indifferent even to the weak force, interacting only through gravity. They would be the perfect fugitives, present in every calculation, absent from every experiment. But not all theories are so simple. Some speak of primordial black holes, born in the first moments of the Big Bang. If true, the universe is filled with them, tiny abysses wandering the void, unseen until their gravity betrays them. They would be not particles, but prisons, each one a relic of creation, each one carrying within it the silence of collapse. The most haunting theories, however, speak of hidden sectors, mirror universes of matter and force that do not couple to our light. In such a vision, dark matter is not background but foreground, not scaffolding but reality itself. It forms its own galaxies, its own stars, its own structures, invisible yet complete. We live inside its presence without knowing it, blind to the true architecture. And if such a shadow cosmos exists, then the luminous universe is not the rule, but the exception. This inversion is the most terrifying thought of all. For it means that what we call matter is a minority, a thin, glowing film on the surface of something vaster. We are not the center, not the foundation, not even the majority. We are a brief anomaly in a universe whose real history belongs to the dark. Speculation becomes a landscape of shifting ground, each theory rising like a mountain only to dissolve into mist. The Large Hadron Collider hurls protons together at near-light speeds, searching for echoes of supersymmetry, for the missing siblings of known particles. Detectors measure the debris with exquisite precision, waiting for energy to vanish into the invisible arms of a WIMP. But the wreckage reveals only what we already know. No new particle emerges from the storm. Supersymmetry, once a shining promise, grows dim with every null result. Still, physicists refuse to let the trail die. If WIMPs do not answer, perhaps axions will. In laboratories tuned to impossible sensitivity, resonant cavities hum like metallic violins, waiting for an axion to shift its song. Experiments stretch across decades, across continents, across generations of physicists who inherit the silence and carry it forward. For the silence itself is data. Each failure narrows the field. Each unanswered call reshapes the boundary of truth. Yet some turn their eyes away from particles entirely. What if dark matter is not matter at all, but a flaw in the equations of gravity? Modified Newtonian dynamics, emergent gravity, theories that alter the rules rather than introduce new players. They explain rotation curves in galaxies with elegance, bending the laws instead of summoning ghosts. But when tested against the full weight of evidence, the bullet cluster, lensing arcs, the cosmic microwave background, they fracture. They cannot explain all that dark matter does. And so the gaze shifts again to darker possibilities. Perhaps dark matter is an entire hidden sector, with its own forces, its own light, its own chemistry. A mirror universe intertwined with ours, invisible yet coexisting, its galaxies moving to rules we cannot touch. If true, then our universe is not solitary, but layered, one reality folded atop another. We may not be the main story, but a footnote written in light upon the page of shadow. The thought terrifies not only because it expands the cosmos, but because it diminishes us. It suggests that the luminous matter we know, atoms, molecules, stars, is a rare accident, that the true architecture of existence is built of something else, something that will never acknowledge us. We are the minority, the brief flicker, the spark on the edge of permanence. And what if dark matter is unstable? What if its particles decay on scales longer than the age of the universe? The scaffolding could one day collapse, unraveling the web of galaxies, leaving the cosmos adrift in emptiness. The end would not come with fire or collapse, but with silence. The stars would burn out one by one, their orbits unbound, their light drifting into voids too vast to name. Science holds these possibilities with equal parts awe and dread, as each theory is a fragment, a shard of glass from a mirror too large to reassemble. None of them complete, all of them unsettling. What remains is the recognition that whatever dark matter is, it is not benign. It is sovereign, fundamental, indifferent. It is the architect of everything we know, yet it denies us the courtesy of recognition. Every attempt to name the unseen leads back to the same abyss. Dark matter is not ours. It does not live in our light. It does not obey our senses. It does not care for our definitions, and so the theories grow more unsettling, more daring, more alien. Some physicists imagine a hidden symmetry, a mirror reflection of the universe itself. For every particle we know, there may be a partner we cannot touch. An electron of shadow, a proton of shadow, a photon of shadow, together forming a world as rich and structured as our own, yet separated by a barrier of interaction. Their stars would not shine for us, their galaxies would not glow in our skies, their civilizations, if they exist, would remain forever invisible. And yet their gravity presses upon us, shaping the orbits of our stars, the structure of our galaxies, the very expansion of the cosmos. If such a mirror universe exists, then we are not alone. But we will never meet the others. Other theories whisper of dark fluids, of exotic fields that permeate the void like an ocean. Galaxies would be boats upon this unseen tide, drifting along currents we cannot feel. This fluid would have pressure, motion, perhaps even waves, and we, creatures of atoms, would be ignorant passengers carried on its flow. There are visions even stranger. That dark matter is not substance at all, but geometry, an imprint of higher dimensions folded into ours. To us, it feels like mass. To a deeper reality, it may be the shadow of space itself, bleeding into our world. In this view, the cosmos is a projection, and dark matter the evidence of a depth we cannot perceive. Each of these speculations shares a single truth. They unsettle the notion that the universe is built for human comprehension. We evolved to see fire, to hear predators, to grasp tools. But the cosmos is not bound by our senses. The true matter of the universe has no obligation to glow for us. It moves in silence, and we are left to chase its gravity like blind travelers tracing walls in the dark. And perhaps this is the most terrifying possibility of all, that we may never know. That dark matter is not a puzzle with an answer, but a horizon forever receding, a mystery too vast for a species like ours to resolve. We may spend centuries building instruments, detectors, colliders, and still find only silence. The evidence will remain, undeniable yet untouchable. The galaxies will spin, the light will bend, the web will stretch, and we will orbit within it, forever ignorant of what it is. If so, then our place in the cosmos is not at the center of knowledge, but at its edge. We are not the masters of reality, but the children of its refusal. Dark matter is the reminder that the universe does not exist to be understood. It exists, and in its existence, it makes us small. Instruments grow more ambitious, their silence more eloquent. Beneath mountains, detectors of liquid xenon wait with the patience of stone, searching for the faintest tremor from a passing WIMP. None comes. In laboratories tuned to whispers, haloscopes listen for axions humming like invisible strings through the fabric of the cosmos. They hear only static. The Large Hadron Collider smashes protons with the violence of creation, measuring the wreckage for hints of hidden particles, yet the debris tells us nothing new. The silence is not empty. It is heavy, deliberate, unbroken. And still, the pursuit continues. The Euclid mission lifts its eyes to the sky, mapping the subtle distortions of galaxies caused by gravitational lensing, each bend of light a fingerprint of the unseen. Soon, the Nancy Grace Roman telescope will join it, tracing the distribution of matter across cosmic history, searching for the pattern carved by shadows. The Vera Rubin Observatory will flood us with images of the night sky, a torrent of data so vast that hidden truths may emerge from its sheer weight. On another frontier, gravitational wave detectors listen for the tremors of space itself. Perhaps they will one day reveal the presence of primordial black holes, tiny abysses that could account for the missing mass. If they exist, then the universe is seeded with darkness from the instant of its birth. Each experiment, each mission, is not only a hunt for particles or signals, it is a declaration that humanity refuses to accept blindness, that we will build machines to probe what sight cannot, to measure what light denies us. Even if the silence continues, the act of listening reshapes us. For science is not merely the pursuit of answers, it is the shaping of questions. Every failure narrows the path. Every null result draws the outline of truth. The silence becomes a map, telling us where not to look, guiding us closer to where the answer must be. And yet, there is a deeper possibility, one that chills more than ignorance, that dark matter will never reveal itself, that no detector will ever register its touch, no collider will ever summon its ghost, that it exists beyond the reach of every method we can devise. If so, then we will live and die in a universe whose very foundation remains untouchable, a cosmos whose skeleton we cannot name. Still, the search continues. Not because certainty is promised, but because to abandon it would be to accept blindness as destiny. Humanity builds its instruments, digs its caverns, launches its telescopes, not to guarantee answers, but to declare that the unknown is not enough. We must try, even if the universe never replies. Beneath kilometers of rock, silence reigns. Detectors float in oceans of liquid argon, in tanks of xenon chilled to stillness, their walls shielded from every stray particle of the surface world. Scientists descend into these caverns as if into temples, adjusting sensors with the precision of surgeons. They know what they are asking for, a single spark, a single collision, a single atom stirred by an invisible traveler. But day after day, year after year, the darkness answers with more darkness. The Large Hadron Collider, too, has roared with its storms of energy. Protons collide at nearly the speed of light, their fragments caught in layers of sensors like moths in a net. Physicists sift through the wreckage, searching for gaps where energy vanishes, for signs that particles have slipped away into the unseen. But the silence holds. No new voice rises from the thunder of collision. And yet the pursuit grows. The Vera Rubin Observatory prepares to open its unblinking eye, a mirror that will scan the entire southern sky, again and again, night after night, watching galaxies drift and distort under the invisible grip of dark matter. Its data will be relentless, a torrent of images that no single mind could absorb, but in which the shape of the cosmic web may finally be revealed in detail so fine it resembles truth. Space agencies aim telescopes outward, Euclid already mapping the geometry of the cosmos, Nancy Grace Roman soon to follow. Their task is not to see the invisible, but to measure its shadow, the way light bends, the way galaxies cluster, the way structure itself unfolds. For dark matter cannot hide its hand. It bends reality itself, and by bending it betrays its presence. On yet another frontier, gravitational wave detectors open their ears to space-time itself. They listen for the tremors of black holes colliding, for the ripples of neutron stars merging. But hidden within this new astronomy is a hope stranger still, that primordial black holes, if they exist, might one day betray themselves in these echoes. If such tiny abysses are the dark matter, then the silence has been a graveyard all along. Every tool, every detector, every mission is an act of faith. The faith that reality will yield, that nature will not remain silent forever. And in this faith lies something more human than science alone, a refusal to surrender to blindness. For even if the search never ends, the act of searching reshapes us, makes us a species defined not by what it knows, but by what it refuses to stop asking. There is a humility in the chase, though it hides behind ambition. Each instrument, each mission, is built with the hope that it will be the one to tear a fragment of truth from the dark. But in their silence, the machines remind us of a harsher lesson. The universe does not exist to be explained. It exists whether or not we understand. Physicists run simulations of the cosmic web, feeding computers with equations of gravity and expansion. The results are hauntingly precise. Galaxies form along filaments, clusters bloom at intersections, voids stretch vast and empty. The simulations match the universe we see, yet they do so only when dark matter is added. Remove it, and the galaxies dissolve into chaos, the structures collapse, the universe becomes barren. Reality itself insists on its presence. Still, no particle comes. The detectors wait, the colliders roar, the telescopes gaze, and the silence grows. It is as though the universe is mocking us, saying, "I will show you the shape of my bones, but never their substance." We measure the outline, but the core remains hidden, as if the cosmos has drawn a curtain and dares us to keep pulling. And so science sharpens its patience. It invents new detectors, new missions, new theories. Quantum sensors promise to listen more deeply, measuring the faintest tremors of space-time. Gravitational wave observatories expand, their arms stretching kilometers longer, their ears tuned finer. Space telescopes rise like prophets into orbit, not to see the unseen, but to map its shadow with more precision than ever before. But beneath the progress lies an older recognition that this search may never end, that dark matter may be forever beyond the reach of experiment, that we may chart its influence with exquisite detail, but never touch its essence. It would not be the first time. Black holes, too, were once invisible phantoms, known only by the way they pulled on stars. Even now, their interiors remain hidden. Perhaps dark matter is a cousin of that same refusal, an eternal silence at the foundation of being. If so, then the pursuit is no less worthy, for the act of searching remakes us. Each experiment is not only a probe into the cosmos, but a reflection of what it means to be human. Fragile, temporary, and yet unwilling to surrender to ignorance. The universe may be indifferent, but we are not. We measure, we build, we listen, because to do otherwise would be to accept blindness as truth. Perhaps one day a detector will flicker, a collider will whisper, a telescope will reveal a shadow too precise to deny. Perhaps not. Perhaps dark matter will remain forever just beyond our reach. In either case, the pursuit itself is the answer. For what matters is not whether the universe speaks, but that we have learned to listen. The story of dark matter cannot end with instruments or equations. For beyond the silence of detectors and the patience of telescopes lies a question older than science. What does it mean for humanity to live in a universe where most of existence is invisible? We are creatures of light. Our eyes are tuned to fire, our myths to the stars, our histories written in the glow of dawn. Yet light is not the foundation, it is the ornament. The cosmos we see, every galaxy, every nebula, every constellation, is a thin film upon an ocean of shadow. We are children of the exception, not the rule. To realize this is to feel the ground shift beneath meaning itself. Einstein told us that matter bends space-time, and we trusted that what bends it is what we can see. Hawking showed us that black holes radiate, that even the darkest abyss has a story written in light. But dark matter denies us both comfort and story. It gives us no glow, no heat, no collision that we can catch. Only gravity, only absence, only the relentless pull of something that will not answer. And yet without it, we would not exist. Dark matter gathered the first clouds of gas, cradled them until they collapsed into stars, held galaxies together long enough for worlds to form, for life to awaken. Every breath, every thought, every human act is indebted to a substance we cannot name. It is our creator and our cage, the architect of our galaxies, the silent author of our fate. What does it mean to belong to such a universe? To live knowing that what sustains us is forever beyond touch? It humbles, it terrifies, it awakens awe. We are not masters of reality, but its passengers, carried through time by currents invisible, guided by a skeleton we will never see. The night sky, once a map of gods and heroes, becomes something else. The constellations are not eternal. They are fragile, temporary sparks woven into a deeper fabric. The spirals of galaxies are not ornaments. They are scars left by gravity's invisible hand. And the silence between stars is not empty. It is full, heavy with presence, thick with what refuses to be revealed. Perhaps the most terrifying truth of all is this: dark matter may not care to be understood. It may not even be possible for us to understand. Our minds evolved to hunt, to speak, to survive on a small world lit by a small star. To expect them to comprehend the hidden majority of the cosmos may be arrogance. And yet, in our arrogance lies our defiance. We look anyway. We build anyway. We ask anyway. For in the asking is meaning. If the universe will not yield its foundation, then perhaps the point is not to solve it, but to be reshaped by the attempt. To live as seekers in a cosmos that will never fully be known. To accept that awe and terror are siblings, and that in their embrace lies truth. The terror sharpens when we imagine the fate of what we cannot see. If dark matter is eternal, then the skeleton of the universe will hold long after the last stars fade. Galaxies will remain bound, drifting slowly into silence, their light extinguished but their structure preserved, like bones outlasting flesh. But if dark matter is unstable, if its particles decay across unimaginable spans of time, then the web itself will unravel. The galaxies will scatter, their orbits unbound, the cosmos dissolving into a thin haze of light lost in infinite dark. This is not apocalypse in flame, nor collapse in fire, but something colder, a cosmic undoing. Not an end we would witness in a moment, but a slow dismembering that erases structure itself. Reality, as we know it, would forget its own architecture, and we would be powerless to stop it, for the very thing that built us would also be the thing that lets us go. Speculation becomes unbearable when it touches life. If dark matter is a hidden sector, rich with its own forces, then it may carry its own structures, its own galaxies, perhaps even its own inhabitants. What would it mean if we are not the only ones who ask questions in the night, but merely the only ones who burn with light? If they exist, these shadow beings would never know us, nor we them. We would occupy the same universe, yet forever apart, like two songs playing in the same silence, unheard by one another. And then comes the Philosophical inversion. Perhaps it is not that we cannot see dark matter, but that it does not see us. Perhaps in its world we are the anomaly, the faint glow of atoms and irrelevance against the true weight of reality. To them, we would be as intangible as ghosts. This reversal wounds our pride. For centuries, we believed the universe was built for us. Even after Copernicus and Darwin, we clung to the hope that existence was, in some way, about us. Dark matter denies this completely. It tells us that reality is built on something alien, indifferent, invisible, that we are children of chance, surviving in the margins of a cosmos that does not need us, and yet within the terror lies a strange beauty. To live in a universe that will never fully yield is to live with wonder that cannot be extinguished. The mystery becomes not a wall, but a horizon, not an end, but a beginning. For as long as we ask, as long as we build, as long as we refuse to surrender to blindness, we remain participants in the grand silence. There is a weight that settles in when one accepts the truth. The cosmos is not built of what we can see. The stars, the nebulae, the galaxies themselves. These are only brushstrokes upon a canvas whose substance is shadow. Our eyes evolved to notice fire, to trace color, to read light, and so we mistake brightness for being. But the universe insists otherwise. Being is dark. The philosophical reflection cannot be avoided. If reality is composed mostly of something that cannot be touched, then what does it mean to live, to think, to love, inside such a cosmos? Every human story, every empire and ruin, every birth and death unfolds within a framework we do not perceive. We belong to it completely, yet it remains indifferent to us. There is humility in that, but also terror. Perhaps knowledge itself is an illusion. We pride ourselves on discovery, on the ability to look outward and explain. But what if the truest parts of existence are forever beyond explanation? What if dark matter is not a puzzle to be solved, but a mirror reminding us that our senses, our instruments, even our mathematics, are temporary tools built by creatures who will one day vanish? The cosmos will go on in silence, its hidden skeleton intact, its mysteries unbroken. And yet there is meaning in the attempt. To search, to ask, to build detectors in caverns and telescopes in orbit is to declare that blindness is not enough. That even if the answers never come, the questions themselves are a form of survival. Dark matter may never speak, but in listening for it, humanity defines itself. Not by mastery, but by wonder. The night sky, once a map of myths, becomes a cathedral of absence. Galaxies shine like lanterns hung on an invisible scaffolding. Light bends around halos that will never glow. And in that bending, in that distortion, in that silence, the universe tells us something both devastating and profound. That truth is larger than light, that existence is greater than what we can perceive, that we are not its authors, only its witnesses. And so the story closes not with certainty, but with awe. We live in a universe whose foundations are invisible, whose skeleton is untouchable, whose meaning is uncertain. But within that uncertainty lies the essence of what it means to be human. To gaze into the dark, to know it will never answer, and to keep gazing anyway. The silence of the cosmos is not absence, it is presence without voice, weight without face, law without witness. Dark matter has revealed this to us, not by showing itself, but by refusing to. And in that refusal, it has become the most profound reminder of what the universe truly is. Not a story written for us, but a reality that goes on, indifferent, immense, eternal. The opening hook was discovery, Zwicky's galaxies rushing faster than they should, Rubin's spirals defying the pull of visible mass. What began as anomaly became inevitability. What began as suspicion became certainty. Yet certainty brought no comfort, only questions. For every answer, the mystery grew deeper, as if the cosmos were teaching us that knowledge is never final, that each truth births a greater silence. The scientific pursuit sharpened the terror. Particles proposed and dismissed, detectors tuned and denied, theories erected and eroded. WIMPs, axions, sterile neutrinos, primordial black holes. None revealed themselves. And so the silence became not the absence of discovery, but the discovery itself. Dark matter is real, not because we have seen it, but because the universe refuses to exist without it. And from that truth comes reflection. If most of reality is hidden, then our place in it is smaller than ever imagined. We are light-born creatures in a dark-built world, fragile sparks burning on a skeleton we cannot touch. The galaxies are not ornaments, but evidence. The stars are not central, but incidental. The majority of existence will never glow for us. What remains is awe. To live in such a universe is not to despair, but to accept that truth is larger than perception, that wonder is greater than certainty. Dark matter will not speak, but in its silence it tells us everything, that we are not the measure of existence, that ignorance is part of being, that to question is as sacred as to know. Perhaps the most terrifying theory is also the most humbling, that dark matter is not anomaly but essence, not exception but rule, not ghost but foundation, that the true universe belongs to the unseen, and that we, brief and luminous, are only its passing reflection. The instruments hum, the data flows, the silence endures. We chase the unseen with every tool we have, yet what emerges is not clarity but paradox. The more we measure, the more undeniable dark matter becomes, and the less we understand it. Gravity bends where it should not. Galaxies spin when they should collapse. Light distorts in arcs that betray invisible halos. The evidence is overwhelming, but the substance is forever withheld. This is the knife edge of science, where discovery meets humility. We are reminded that truth does not owe us its face. The cosmos is not obligated to be simple, nor to be legible to minds born of earth. It exists on its own terms, in languages older and harsher than thought. Dark matter is the purest form of this defiance. It allows us to know that it is, but not what it is. And here lies the terror. For if the foundation of reality is hidden, then knowledge itself may be provisional, forever partial, forever blind. The detectors may listen for centuries and still find nothing. The colliders may roar until their walls are dust, and the silence may still hold. It is possible, chillingly possible, that we will never know. That dark matter is not a puzzle to be solved, but a horizon we cannot cross. Yet the pursuit itself is revelation, for in seeking the unseen, we discover ourselves. We learn that wonder is not diminished by ignorance, but born of it. That the refusal of the universe to yield its core is not cruelty, but invitation. We are made small, and in being made small, we are made aware. The galaxies wheel in silence, the web stretches across the abyss, and we, brief sparks of light, continue to ask. Perhaps the answer will never come. Perhaps that is the answer. That meaning is not in possession, but in pursuit. That the universe is not ours to own, only ours to witness. The night sky has always been a mirror. Once we saw gods in its constellations, stories etched in fire. Later we saw physics, equations written in the arcs of orbits and the glow of stars. Now, with dark matter, we see something deeper, the outline of a reality that refuses to be known. It is not hostile, not kind, not even silent. It is indifferent. And in that indifference, it reveals a truth we struggle to bear. The universe is not built for us. Every galaxy, every cluster, every filament of the cosmic web is testimony. They move in obedience to a mass we cannot touch, to a presence that does not glow. We measure the consequences, never the cause. We are prisoners reading the shadows of bars we cannot see. mistaking the slant of light for the shape of the cage. And yet, within this prison lies wonder. For without dark matter, there would be no galaxies, no stars, no worlds, no life. We exist because of what we cannot know. We are born of shadows, children of an architecture invisible yet absolute. It is terrifying, but it is also beautiful. The cosmos did not need to give us a place within it, yet somehow it did. Perhaps the final reflection is this: knowledge will always be partial. The mysteries of the universe are not obstacles to be conquered, but horizons to be approached. Dark matter may never reveal its face, but in its refusal it gives us something greater than certainty. It gives us awe. It teaches us that truth is larger than comprehension, that being is deeper than light, that to live is to dwell inside a question without end. And so we close, not with answers, but with silence. A silence heavy with presence. A silence vast enough to hold galaxies. A silence that whispers the most terrifying and most humbling truth. The universe belongs to the unseen.